gosh, it's difficult to predict what's in his head, but when he was standing there next to his father, he must have thought, and with his wife on the balcony, perhaps we're turning a corner, perhaps things are going to get better now. He's had a really rough time. I would say that the king always looks emotional during ceremonies like that. He's been laying the wreath on behalf of the Queen and then on behalf of himself for some years now. And of course, it is a very moving occasion. So I wouldn't say that he looked more emotional than usual. He did it with great dignity. I thought he walked well, and he looked fit, and that was all good. But of course, it is a very sad day. He probably thinks back to his own parents and how they served during the war, and the various members of the family who have done that over many decades. I mean, you can imagine. I mean, there he is, and he's met so many veterans. He's talked to them. He's had much more experience of them than we have, and so it wouldn't be surprising if he was emotional. Well, once again, I mean, the poor king, the poor royal family have been so used to everybody being sick this year. I guess it's sort of almost becoming the norm, because he himself had been ill. Catherine, it was lovely to see her on the balcony, but obviously the thing about the Queen is that she has a chest infection. It was important that she should get well, and also she made the point that she didn't want other people to get infected in any way at all. So it was absolutely sensible that she shouldn't appear. It's quite a cold day, quite a lot of standing around anyway, even on that balcony, and so I think it was sensible. But in a more general sense, of course, the king does always brighten up hugely when Camilla is around. He loves having her with him. She's a huge support to him. But as far as doing the duty today, I guess that doesn't matter too much. But of course, I'm sure he would have much preferred to have had her watching on. Um, it's always impressive, and everything he does at the moment is impressive. I mean, that Australian Samoan trip was extremely impressive. I mean, that was involving long haul flights and lots of engagements. Admittedly, no evening engagements while in Australia, but those are very strenuous tours. But he is an absolutely dedicated man, and he is also a workaholic. I mean, the complaint that I keep hearing being made of him is that he works too hard, that he will not stop. And I suppose that's only natural, that he's waited so long, um, to become king. And now that he's in this position, he knows he's not going to be there anything like as long as his mother. So he's got a relatively short period of time to achieve all the things that he wants to achieve. So he is a workaholic, and that's been his nature for many years, by the way. So I think it's all right to do something like that. I mean, there's a certain amount of moving around. They walk in, they stand there for the 2 minutes, then they lay the wreath, and he isn't there for too long and out and about. And he's also got a very nice, heavy Admiral of the Fleet's uniform coat on. So I imagine he was quite warm, actually, hopefully. Well, I tell you what I really thought was that I thought it was quite likely that she would be in attendance this morning, because once again, the time on the balcony is what, there's the 2 minute silence, there's the watching of the various wreaths being laid in the short service, and then they all go. So that's not too long. But what was amazing was there she was last night too at the Festival of Remembrance, which is a very long evening. And this is all very encouraging that she's able to do both those things. And I mean, it's always it's always dangerous to make predictions, but I bet you she'll be wanting to do her carol service that she does in Westminster Abbey, if possible, in December. Let's see whether she can do that. And we're getting the indication of a gradual return to work, which is very exciting and very good, because we need her. We want her very much. Well, Sophie Wessex is or a Duchess of Edinburgh, as she now is always a huge support to the Queen, and I'm sure she will have been a great support to Catherine as well. It's nice that the two of them were there together. That is a fairly traditional role, of course, for the ladies of the household. They don't, apart from Princess Anne, they don't lay wreaths. So they're up there on the old Home Office balcony watching it, and that's always been the case. And the Queen Mother used to be there year after year as well. Very touching, but we also saw Prince William last night with his hand coming out when she went into the Festival of Remembrance, and I've seen him do that on many occasions. I think it's indicative of a family that has been through a lot this year. supporting each other. And that is really why we have a royal family. You know, the king can't do everything. His family are around to help him and support him and take on the extra duties. And if it's a question of reassuring one of them or saying, well done, you did a good job, lovely to have seen you there, or whatever they're saying, that's lovely, isn't it? Really nice. I think Remembrance Sunday is one of the big events in the royal calendar, something that they feel very strongly about. As I say before, they've had opportunities. I mean, the king was at D-Day, for example, you know, the anniversary of D-Day. I mean, he's met many veterans. I mean, of course, they all have military connections as well, with regiments which have lost soldiers and during the various conflicts. And so, you know, I I was thinking, you know, I'm sort of 72, so you know, I've been jolly lucky in my reign. I didn't have in my life, I didn't have to go to war. My father did. My mother was driving ambulances or driving officers around and things at a time when they should have been having fun. So what I'm really trying to say is that our generation, the generation that came after the war, um, should really, you know, be so grateful to all those who went out and fought for the freedom of this country. And that's what the royal family are respecting. And you know, in all the generations. I mean, when you had in the olden days the Queen Mother and King Olaf of Norway on the balcony, they'd been through the war, through two wars. They'd lost relations and things. This time, you know, you've got this younger generation just as respectful and just as keen to be there to show their support to the veterans and to the families who lost relations and things, and to people who we were jolly lucky to be kept safe. You know, we are very, very lucky to have had that generation that came before us. Well, going back to that interesting remark that he made about how this has been the most brutal year in his life, it must have been very, very brutal because I would have thought that the year in which he lost his mother was pretty bad as well. And, you know, to lose your mother when you're well, to lose your mother at any age, frankly, is awful. But I mean, to be a young teenager and lose your mother is absolutely dreadful. Because his particular problem as Prince of Wales is that he never knows from one day to the next when he's going to suddenly be called upon to become king. And therefore, if his father is ill, that becomes much more crucial. If his wife is also ill, and we know she's been very ill because we've hardly seen her at all this year, we've one or two memorable occasions like Trooping the Colour and Wimbledon and last night and today when she's come out. He really has had the cares of the world on his shoulder. I have a huge, huge amount of sympathy for him in dealing with that. And also, you know, he's got young children and they need looking after. And, you know, they must have all been terribly worried about their mother. And he must have also been very worried about the king. So I think probably, gosh, it's difficult to predict what's in his head, but when he was standing there next to his father, he must have thought, and with his wife on the balcony, you know, perhaps we're turning a corner, perhaps things are going to get better now. He's had a really rough time.